Hello, my lovelies. Welcome back to my channel. This is your girl Angel from Simply Angel Tiah. And as you can see here, I am starting to get my Christmas gifts ready, and this is going to be one of them. This is a scarf that I'm making out of the puff stitch, the same as I did the fingerless wrist warmers. And so again, because of those fingerless gloves, a lot of people also requested that I use the same stitch to do a scarf as well as a hat. So this is the video for the scarf, and as you guys see here, it's absolutely stunning. I chose these colors on purpose, and as you can see, there's a glitter in the yarn that makes it very Christmassy like. So go ahead and get yourself some nice Christmassy yarn, or just regular yarn if you're just making it for any different occasion, but I made mine so that it has a Christmas theme to it. But that's pretty much it here. So we're going to be working on this bad boy. And again, before we obviously start, I'm going to show you guys all the materials that I use. But the most important thing here is for you to do it however you want it. So it doesn't have to be the colors I'm using. And it doesn't have to be the change of color the way I'm doing it. It could just be one solid color that you prefer, or somebody you're gifting it to prefers. But all in all, the main thing that we need to know how to do is the pattern, and this is it here. So without any further ado, I'm gonna go ahead and get this video started before I chat too much, and therefore you guys can get started. Okay, all right, so let's go ahead and do that. Okay, my lovelies, so before we get the project started, first things first, I'm going to show you guys the materials that I used for this scarf today. And as you can see here, I have my two colors that I will be using. They're from the exact same company, so I'm going to talk about the details on one of the labels, and then of course I'll tell you the color of the next, but the information on both the yarns are exactly the same except for the colors, obviously you can see here. Okay, so this is Impeccable Glitter by Loops and Threads, and all the measurement units are right here. So if you're looking to see how many grams or how many meters you need to get for your scarf, then you can look at the measurements here. It's a medium weight number 4. Recommended hook size is number 5mm crochet hook or H8 US. Okay, the color, this one here, is called Amethyst. I'm going to be referring to it as purple just because that's what I see when I look at it, but the official name for the color is called Amethyst. And what else? It is 97% acrylic and 3% other fiber. Now don't ask me what the other fiber is. I think, if I could be honest, I think it's just these glitter that they weave in within the threads of the yarn here. I think that is what they call other. Okay, so for my project, I'm going to be using about two or 1 and I think 3/4 of the purple or the amethyst. And of course, this is the exact same as this one here, except the color for this one is called cherry, and I will be using about 3/4 of this one because I'm putting a strip right in the middle of my scarf of this, and it's going to be bordered on both sides by this color. So that's why I have the different amount of yarns that I'm using for each of these colors. Okay, all right, for a crochet hook, I'm going to up mine by just 0.5. So I'm going to be using a 5.5mm crochet hook or I9 US, and I'm going to be needing a scissors and a tape measure, which is optional. If you're looking to do a scarf for yourself and you want to know how long you want it, then it's good to know the measurements as well. If you're making it for someone else and you need to know how long, or they tell you how long they would like their scarf to be or how wide, then you need to have your tape measure so you can get it at the right size that you're looking to have. Okay, all right, so that's everything for now. Go grab your stuff and let's go ahead and get started. Okay, my lovelies, so we're gonna go ahead and get started with the foundation chain for the scarf. And as you can see here, I rub my yarn on my index finger like that, and this helps me control the tension. So you don't have to obviously do this. I just do this so that I have my work coming out really even, and I've been told by most of you that my work is very, very well even. You don't see some stitches that are looser than others, and I kind of credit that to me being able to put the yarn on my finger like this. But of course, use whatever technique you usually use to make sure you have the right tension for your work. Okay. All right, so for the foundation chain, we're going to start with a slip knot, and I'm going to show you how to do a slip knot here for those of you who are new. So I have a tail hanging after I wrap the yarn on my finger like that. The tail that's hanging, I hold it with my middle finger and my index finger like that, or my middle finger and my thumb like this, or pinch it in like this. Then I take the short side of the tail, I take it around my thumb just like so. Okay, so if you look on this side, I have this like X on the other side of my thumb. I continue to pinch it like this. I remove it without really letting go of where I'm pinching. I have this little loop here. I put my crochet hook through, a yarn over, I pull it through the loop, and then I release, and then I release, and then I just pull it like that. And then you can either make you can make these longer. So if you pull like this, you can make it wider if you wanted to make it wider, but you can also just pull it to make it tighter like that. Okay. All right, so I'm going to start by doing a chain of 201 for my scarf, and this will give me a scarf that is about 60 inches long. Okay, so if you're looking to do a scarf that is about 60 inches, then you should start around 200 chains. Okay, so we'll go ahead and get started. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So before I continue here, I just want to show you guys how my chain looks. So depending on how you do your work, your chain should be very, very even like that. So you shouldn't have some chains that are looser than others. So when you do a chain, make sure you're keeping it very, very consistent in terms of intensity. And this will help your work stay very nice and neat, okay? So go ahead and do your 201. I have my 10 here, so I'm going to continue until I get to 201. And when I do that, I'll come back and show you guys how to start the first row, okay? So let's go ahead and do that. Okay guys, so I have gone ahead and done my 201 chains here, and this is going to be for the length of my scarf. All right, so to start my first row of this project, I'm going to skip that one extra chain that we did, and in the second one here, okay, I'm going to do a single crochet but in the back of this second chain. So I'm just gonna flip it like this. This is the back, this is the back of my second chain here. So I'm just gonna go right into the back of that. Make sure you pull your yarn that is kind of looped on the first one, that is looped on the hook, so that is not loose. And then I'm going to do my single crochet there like that. Okay, and then I'm going to move on to the next, and I'm going to do a single crochet in the back of my chain, and then we're going to go ahead and do that in the next chain. And this is pretty much what we're going to be doing until we get to the end of the chain. And by the time you get to the end of the chain, you should have 200 stitches all together, because we skipped our 201st chain to be able to start our single crochet stitch in the back of the chain. Okay, so go ahead and continue to do this, and when you get to the end here, when you do your last single crochet stitch in the back of this last chain here, come back to the video and I will go ahead and show you how to start the second row. Okay, so I will see you guys in just a moment. Okay guys, so I have gone ahead and completed my 200 stitches of the single crochet in the back of the chain here. So that is kind of like the whole length of it right here. Okay, and also I actually just changed my my background here, because I realized with this purple color it's on the dark side, so having a black background was making it so that you can't really see it properly. And I really would like you guys to see everything that I'm doing here, so that you don't have any you know, like any the things that you made or you just didn't see properly because the colors were too dark. So yeah, anyways, my favorite color, red. So anyways, I hope you guys can see properly now. So I'm going to go ahead and show you guys how to start the second row, and this is going to be a puff stitch row. Okay, so I'm going to do a chain of 1, and then I'm going to turn my work. Okay, and then I'm going to go right into this stitch here and I'm going through both loops. Okay, so remember that you're going through both loops and doing a single crochet in that very first stitch right after your chain one, just like so. I'm gonna move this so you can see properly. Let's put it on this side. And okay, so now I'm going to skip this stitch right here, and in this next one to it I'm going to do a puff stitch, but I'm going to start by going through as if I'm doing a single crochet stitch, but then I have two loops. I'm not gonna stop there. I'm gonna yarn over, go into the same stitch, pull it back, and now I have 4 loops on the hook like that. Okay, and then I'm gonna do it one more time. I'm gonna loop over, go into the same stitch, bring it back, and now I have 5 loops on, or 6 loops on the hook. Okay, so see that I have 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so those are my 6 loops, and then I'm going to yarn over and go through all 6 just like that. Okay, so that is my puff stitch, and I'm going to lock it in by doing a chain 1. Then I'm going to skip the stitch next to it. In the next one from there I'm going to repeat my puff stitch. Okay, so again you're going to make sure you have 6 loops on the hook. Okay, and then when you do, you yarn over, go through all 6, do a chain 1 to lock it in, skip the next stitch, and the next one after that you're going to go in and do your puff stitch. Okay, and then one more, and always make sure you have your 6 loops on the hook, yarn over, go through all 6. Oopsie. And sometimes it's a little bit struggly to do it because your hook here is going to try and pull the other strings from the other yarn, but you're just going to do your best. And so yeah, you're just going to keep doing this until you get to the end of this row. And when you finish your very last puff stitch, come back so I can show you how to finish it off at the end. So regardless of how many stitches you have left, just come back and I will show you guys how to finish it off, and then how to start our second row of the puff stitch, and then we will go ahead and move on to the next row and the next row. So I'll probably show you a couple of rows because it does change after our second row of the puff stitch, and then and so on and so forth. Okay, so go ahead and do this. When you get to the end of the row, come back and I will show you guys how to start the next row. Okay, see you guys in a bit. Okay, so I have just gone ahead and done my final puff stitch right here, as you can see, and I have a stitch left. So what I'll do here is I will just lock it in, just like so. Okay, and then in this final stitch I'm just going to do a single crochet stitch right there, and just like that. Okay, so that's pretty much it for this row. So if you look at your work, you will see how this puff stitch looks like. Very nice and wonderful. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and start another row of the puff stitch, and it's going to be our row 3, and we're going to start that by doing a chain 1 and then turning our work. Okay, I'll just move the work out of the way so you can see clearly. Now after my chain 1 and turning, there is a stitch again right beneath the chain 1 that we just did, and right in that you're just going to go through and do a single crochet stitch, and you're going through both loops like that. Okay, and then as you can see here, there's a stitch right here that we're going to skip, and we're going to go into this next one right here. Okay, so again, just what we did with this row here, where we're skipping a stitch and doing a puff stitch, a skipping a stitch and doing a puff stitch, we're doing the same with this row. It's just a little bit trickier because you don't see the stitches properly, so we're skipping this one, and in the next one, and it's this gap here. So if you pull your work like this, it's this big gap here, that is your stitch. Okay, so you're just going to go right into that and doing your puff stitch. So that's 2 loops on the hook, 4 loops on the hook, and then 6 loops on the hook. Yarn over, go through all 6, chain 1 to lock it in, skip this stitch here. In the next stitch, go ahead and do your puff stitch, 2 loops, 4 loops, and 6 loops. Yarn over, go through all 6, and as you can see, this is how your second row of the puff stitch should look like. Okay, again you lock it in, and I'm going to do one more with you guys. Skip this stitch in the next stitch, and again you're going into this nice big gap here, the one onto the right of your hand, not the left. Okay, because the left one is another stitch. Okay, you're just gonna go right into that, and you're going through both loops, by the way. Just don't forget that you're not actually going through the back loop only, you're going through both loops. Okay, so there you go. So you're going to continue to do this pattern all the way again to the end. Okay, when you've completed your final puff stitch at this end, come back to the video and I will show you guys how to finish that row off and how to start the next row, which is going to be our row number 4, and it's going to be a different stitch we're using for that one. So come back so we can go ahead and do that. Okay, so go ahead and finish, and then we'll see you guys in a bit. Okay, so I have gone ahead and completed my second row of the puff stitch here. So I'm just going to go ahead and lock in this final puff stitch. Okay, and then we have one more stitch here that we're just going to go ahead and do a single crochet going through the both loops, just like that, and that locks in that section. Okay, all right, so now we have our 3 rows here, not including the foundation chain, and this is how your work should look like, and this is pretty much the puff stitch. Okay, so again, keep your work very neat and even in terms of the intensity of your stitches. And I'm going to go ahead and show you guys how to start row 3, and again, just like the other rows, we're going to chain 1 and we're going to turn our work. And now that we have our work turned like this, in the very first stitch right here after your chain 1, we're going to do a single crochet by going through the back loop of that stitch. Okay, so just like that. So again, this is where we now go back to doing single crochet stitches, but we're going through the back of the chain of the stitches, and this is going to be for the next 4 rows, and this is the first row of the single crochet stitch here in the back loop. Okay, so you're just going to continue to do that. If you flip your work like this, you will see that these are all stitches that are very clear to see, and you just have to go in the back of each of them and do your single crochet. Okay, so again, if you see here, there's one right here. I'm going to do my single crochet, then move on to the next, do my single crochet, and to the next, and so on and so forth. Okay, so this is how it should look like for that part. So you're gonna again continue to do this all the way to the end. When you have completed and you have one final stitch to go, come back to the video and I will show you what to do with that final stitch, and then show you how to start the next row, and then I'll have you guys complete the 4 total rows of this single crochet. But for now, just finish and go all the way to the second last stitch, and then come back to the video. Okay, so see you guys in a moment. Okay, my lovelies, so I have gone ahead and completed my first row of the single crochet stitch in the back of the stitch. Okay, so the back loop single crochet, and as you can see here, I just did my second last one in the back loop, and for this final one, I'm going to go through both loops and do my single crochet, and that just creates a lot more neater edging on the side. And that's what I do mostly every time I do either single crochet, half double crochet in the back loop. In the final stitch, I always end up going through both loops, but that's just my preference. You could do it the other way if you want. Okay, all right, so to start the next row, I'm going to again do a chain 1, turn, and then we just go right back into the back of the next stitch there and do our single crochet, and then we're going to continue to do this again all the way to the end. When you get to the end, in the second last stitch, you go through both loops and do your single crochet, you chain 1, you turn, and you do 4 rows of the single crochet in the back loop. Okay, so as you can see here, this is how my second row looks like. Okay, so you create this, like, you know, ribbing here, and that's gonna be pretty much the goal of doing it in the back loop, is so that it creates some texture. It's not just a normal flat single crochet stitch, it's actually creating a texture there. Okay, so again, do 4 rows of this. So we've already completed our first row together, and I'm now working on my second row, and then I'll do my third row and then 4th row. So when you've completed your 4 rows, come back and I'm going to show you how to switch back to doing the 2 rows of the puff stitch. Okay, so I'm gonna quickly show you how to do that, especially if you're not sure how to just transition into that, and then that will be done, and I'll have you guys pretty much complete the rest of your project until the end. You can always change the color as I am doing, which I'm going to be doing the cherry color in the middle, a block of it in the middle, or if you want to just do one solid color, you just do one solid color. But come back after you've done your 4 rows of this, and I will show you how to move on to the next. Okay, see you guys in a bit. Okay, so I have gone ahead and completed my 4 rows of the single crochet stitch in the back loop. As you can see here, I have one more stitch to go, and I always just like to come back and show you guys how I finish it off. And again, like I said previously, instead of going through the back loop only, I go through both loops for the final stitch like that. Okay, so as you can see here, we have we started off with a single crochet stitch after our chain, which is pretty much our base, and then we did one single crochet stitch in the back of that chain. We did 2 rows of the puff stitch, and then now we have done 4 rows of the single crochet stitch in the back loop. Okay, so that's how your work should look like. Okay, and to go ahead and start show you guys how to start the next I guess the next 2 rows of the puff stitch again, I'm going to go ahead and do a chain 1 and turn my work. Okay, we're gonna move this guy to the side so you guys can see clearly. And then again, just the same thing we did when we started our puff stitches here. In this stitch right after the chain 1, we're going to go through both loops and do a single crochet stitch. Okay, and then we're going to skip this stitch right here, and in the next one we're going to do a puff stitch there. And to do a puff stitch, we're going to go in as if we're going to be doing a single crochet stitch. We have 2 loops on the hook, and then we're going to yarn over, go into that same stitch again. We have 4 loops on the hook. We're going to yarn over again, go into the same stitch and bring it back, and now we have 6 loops on the hook. And then we're going to yarn over and go through all 6 stitches, 6 loops, chain 1 to lock it in, skip this stitch here, do a puff stitch here. So again, we just have to make sure we have our 6 loops and then go through all of them, lock it in. Okay, so I'm not going to show you guys how to do this again because it's what I have already shown you how to do it here. So this is the repeat now. So our repeat is going to be 2 rows of puff stitch, 4 rows of the single crochet stitch in the back loop, 2 rows of puff stitch, 4 rows of the single crochet stitch in the back loop. And we're going to continue this until you have the width of your scarf. So however many rows you need to do that, you're going to do that. I'm going to do a total of 28 rows altogether. And my final row is going to kind of emulate this side. It's going to be 2 rows of the puff stitch and then 1 more row of the single crochet stitch, but not going in the back loop, going through both loops. So it's gonna emulate exactly how it looks on this side. Okay, so I'll let you guys do that. For mine, those of you who want to change color in the middle like I am, I'm going to do these 2 rows of the puff stitches here. When those 2 rows are done, I'm going to change my color to this cherry color that I introduced to you guys at the beginning, and then I'm going to do 9 rows of those. So again, it's going to be 2 rows of the, I'm going to start after I do my 2 puff stitches in this color. I'm going to do 4 rows of the single crochet stitch in the back loop, and then I'm going to do 2 rows of the puff stitch in the middle, and then 4 more rows of the single crochet in the back loop. And then I'm going to change back to this color and start by doing the 2 rows of the puff stitch. So that is the alternation we're going to do. And then to match this side, I'm going to also do 9 rows on this side, which is going to be the 2 rows of the puff stitches, 4 rows of the single crochet stitch in the back loop, and then 2 rows of the puff stitch again, and then finish it up with 1 row of the single crochet stitch going through the both loops. I hope that makes sense, but I'm gonna have you guys go ahead and do your job from here. And if you're not changing color, just continue with this pattern until you get your width, but always finish the same way that you started on this side so that it matches. And when you have the amount that you need, come back, and what I will do is I will get my 28 rows completed and come back and show you guys how it looks. Okay, so I'll see you guys in a bit. Okay, my lovelies, so I have gone ahead and completed my 28 rows for this scarf, and as you can see here, these are all the rows I need, and that's the width that I'm looking to have for it. So that's pretty much done here. This is my color change in the middle here, which I think makes it really, really nice. And I have my two colors, so it's called Amethyst, but I call it purple, dark purple. So I have those on the edges like that. And yeah, so I'm just gonna quickly, so I already told you guys that the length was going to be about 60 inches long. So I'm gonna show you guys how long the width is. So if I just measure that from the top there to here, and this is without stretching it because you don't want to stretch it, so it's about 8 inches for the width, and then 60 inches for the length. So if you're doing the exact same way that I'm doing, if it's not too short, if you're not doing it too short deliberately, or if you're not doing it too narrow deliberately, then those should be the measurements for your scarf. Okay, so as you can see here, I have already cut off my yarn, and this is where I ended my final single crochet here. And as you can see, I told you guys, after your 2 puff stitches, the final ones, then you do a single row of the single crochet stitch going through both loops for you to create the same finish as the start of the project here. Okay, now this is your option here to see if you want to do things like tassels or things like that. I'm not gonna do it. I'm gonna leave my scarf like this, and I'm not doing anything to finish it off here. I think the finishing looks just fine like that, so I'm not gonna do anything like that, but feel free to do tassels if you want. But anyways, I'm gonna finish these off here, so I'm just gonna fasten that guy up here, and that's done. So I'm gonna weave these in, but I'll do it after like later. Okay, so this is pretty much it here, you guys. So I hope you enjoyed watching this video from the beginning. And like I said at the beginning, a lot of people requested that I do the puff stitch scarf and a hat as well, so I'm gonna be doing a hat next, and that way you guys have the fingerless gloves, mittens, and then you have the scarf as well as the hat in case you want to make the whole set as a gift to someone. Okay, all right, so thank you so much again for watching the video, and again for watching it to the end. If you haven't yet subscribed to the channel, please go ahead and do so, and make sure you hit the notification bell as well. Make sure you like and comment if you have any questions. Just ask me any questions you have, whether it's about the yarn, whether it's about whatever that you want to ask about the video. Okay, so I will see you guys in my next video. Kwaheri.